So, Kenny, how long have you actually been thinking about racing High Point?
Well, what's today? Friday, so I've probably thought about it for the past 5 days, 6 days. It was a very random, very quick decision.
Was it just a good day on outdoors and you're like,
Not at
this
all.
would be fun?
I haven't even ridden outdoors until Monday, and I rode Wednesday, and that's it. But I watched the races a little bit on Saturday, and I don't know, something just kind of hit me. You know, in the beginning of the year, I really wanted nothing to do with moto just because I struggled in the years past, and I just didn't have fun doing it. I don't want to ruin what I had going. I had my body under control, and excuse me. And I really wasn't into it. You know, I wanted to try the Supercross only thing, and I didn't mean that I want to retire from Pro Motocross. I just made a decision of like, you know what, I've been thinking about it for the past couple years and never actually pulled through with it. I'm gonna try this. Well, then I watched the guys race, and I ended up walking around the corner, and I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm gonna throw you a curveball, because they've been trying to get me to race the first 3 the entire time. I'm like, nah, not really feeling it. And I said, I'm gonna throw you a curveball. I wanna go race next week. And she's like, what? Where did that come from? I've been trying to get you to race the first 3 rounds the entire time. Well, I'm like, yeah, well, I wasn't ready yet, now I am. And of course, what added to it as well, this is Father's Day weekend, and we asked Griffin straight up if he wants to go on the boat or if he wants to go racing. And it was a pretty clear answer that he wanted to go racing. So I'm like, well, that's another thing that we add to the list. So I called Larry in between the motos of Colorado. I said, hey, I got to talk to you ASAP, just because I know that, you know, if we make the decision, it's going to take some planning and bikes. And I know that Kyle, my teammate, he wanted to race the first 3, and I'm like, there could actually be a chance that I can show up. So we got it all worked out and ended up riding on Monday, did my first 2 motos in I don't know how long, and had a little bit of testing on Wednesday, and here I am. We're winging it.
So they wanted you to do the first 3. We're doing 4. That's a little reverse psychology. You're doing the one that nobody actually asked you to do, and then Griff Man is the boss at this point, so we got that. On top of that, coming into this weekend, like how much, you said you haven't been doing motos outdoors, of course, but how much for Supercross, for WSX? Have you been riding much the last couple weeks, or just pretty mellow schedule?
Yeah, I've ridden Supercross, so I took a little bit of time off after Salt Lake just because of my knee, which is all good. And so I took some time off and then started riding again, and you know, Supercross in the heat is no joke. It's not. It's been kind of brutal, but you can ride, here's the thing, I think you can ride motocross, jump on Supercross and feel completely fine, but you can, every time I ride Supercross, go on moto, it's not fine. Like you're not used to the speed, and line choices, you go the shortest way around the track, and it's just doesn't translate over as well as I feel like motocross does for Supercross, especially once you've ridden Supercross. We've raced Supercross the last, I don't know how many months, you know? So I cannot race or ride Supercross for like 3 weeks, jump on Supercross, and I feel completely fine, but motocross always, for me anyway, starts feeling a little bit more foreign. And I've done 2 motos so far on Monday, and I got a little bit of testing on Wednesday, and that is absolutely it. So obviously I'm not as prepared as I would like to be, but when you make a decision that short before the race, it wasn't even really about that for me. If I get my ass kicked tomorrow, I'm totally fine with it. I think it's important to keep it real and stare it in the eyes, and I think getting your ass kicked is good for you. So I'm just going to see what we got tomorrow.
So 2 things. One, you mentioned the knee. So I was really shocked to hear you in an interview after, when you did it, basically, you were saying that you've like never done any level of knee damage or anything, right? So that was very foreign to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never really done any knee damage, knock on wood. Same with shoulder. And they're scary ones. They're injuries that take you out for a long time, and I really brutally hyperextended my knee, and luckily in my knee braces, I race Asterisk, they really saved me from damaging my knee, but I actually have stoppers in it where an hyperextension doesn't happen. If I wouldn't have had those in, I guarantee you my knee would have been completely messed up. But it came really unexpected, and I got the, you know, being on a pretty steep berm, and I had the entire weight of the motorcycle on me to try and keep myself up, and it just really hyperextended, and it was very, very painful. So I was a little bit surprised almost when we did scans that there was nothing wrong, but at the same time I was super thankful. I couldn't really walk the next day and Monday, but then every time overnight my knee got better, a lot better actually, and yeah, so luckily that was just a scare, and now I know I should have kept going for a little bit and feel it out, but at that moment I thought for sure my knee was done, and I guess you learn from those things.
So prior this year when we talked to you about being on the Suzuki, you say that there's nothing really in common with it with your RCH bike during that era. I walked by your bike this morning. There's something that caught my eye that reminds me of your RCH era bike. Do you care talking about it?
Yeah, so obviously up until now, because it was a talk about Supercross, and literally I'm like, I mean, my bike couldn't be further away from what, because first off, I was on Showa, and my motor, like the whole setup is different. I do have KYB air forks on right now that I've had about 4 laps on, and then I was done riding. And they had a lot of potential, and I ended up picking them. It will still take some time for me to get used to, but I feel like long term that was the better option for me. So like I said, the whole system is quite a bit different. I'm also on a KYB shock right now, but our suspension guy Matt from Active Ride is an amazing human being when it comes to suspension stuff. And you know, for the very, very little time we had for testing, we did some good stuff, but of course it can always be better. So I don't know. I think after this one, we get a good taste tomorrow when it comes to racing. I'll probably ride a couple more rounds, so it's the later stages of the rear. Hopefully a little bit more prepared, you know. I want to do some more testing because my bike's got a lot of potential. You know, obviously it did in Supercross. We figured it out really well. Can it always be better? Of course, but I think the bike's got good bones and got really good potential, so it's really just about putting the time in, right? And most of the time we don't ride motocross for the bigger portion of the year, so we just don't have as much time on it. So yeah, I have very, very little experience on my Suzuki in motocross right now, but I think racing is the best learning curve.
I was overhearing you and Anton talk a little bit about just food. You're talking about a documentary Sam watched. I remember interviewing you a couple years, and we talked about the difference in food quality from Europe to here, like how much harder it is to get good quality stuff here. I know you're a student of all that. Anything interesting you've learned lately?
I mean, I'm always learning with whatever I do. You know, I like doing my own research and stuff, but yeah, I'm pretty much on a more animal-based diet, meat and organs, and a lot of fruit and honey, and raw dairy. You know, that's pretty much my go-to for the most part. Again, you know, when you're out and about, like I'm not too gnarly about it. When I'm out about it, it's a little bit more difficult, right? But I think the biggest problem that we have is going to restaurants, cooking with shitty oils, shitty seed oils, sunflower oil, canola oil, terrible starches, all these fillers and preservatives and stuff that shouldn't even be in there. And I think that's what ruins it for a lot of people with heart problems, obesity, and all that stuff. So I love being on an animal-based diet, and I'm a true believer in it. It makes a lot of sense to me. And vegetables, plants, they have a lot of defense chemicals. And yeah, I think when it comes to absorbing nutrients, I think meat and organs is the best, they call it bioavailable to your body. So yeah, I think I feel great on an animal-based diet, and I feel strong, and I notice I have a lot less cravings for sugar stuff or anything shitty, to be honest.
Haiden, opening 2 rounds of the season were phenomenal. Thunder Valley was a little bit rougher last week. Can you take us through it, kind of from your perspective?
Yeah, the first 2 rounds went super well. And yeah, last weekend was not good. We tried to make a big stride for something on the bike, and I just didn't succeed with it. And that's what this whole year is for, learning. So I'm glad I'm learning quick, though, especially to see that at the first 2 rounds, and just slowly trying to mark off some more goals and achieve some better things.
So we were talking about this on one of our podcasts recently. I feel like through your amateur career, of course, you've always had the eyes on you, the YouTube channel, the media presence. But I feel like until maybe the end of your super mini career, pretty much getting the star deal, I think there was always question marks. Like, everybody, I think, knew eventually you would go pro, but it was a question mark of, would you make the transition? And the thing, personally, I've been very impressed with is progression as you made that transition. You went from super mini to full pro nationals in a little over a year, to being in it in a Supercross championship, technically, to being in it early in an outdoors season. Does it catch you off guard, the progression? Like, is this really what you expected for yourself, or have you exceeded your own goals at this point?
Yeah, definitely. Going from Super Mini and then just 250 for doing racing B class, and then racing Minios A class and racing outdoor nationals. It was just going so quick at a young age, and it still is. It still is hard. You're racing against these older dudes. Like, I mean, Hampshire, he's been in the class for a long time, and it's like Hunter. Again, he has a lot of experience in this class, and it's hard for me a little bit coming into these pro ranks and having to learn so quickly. But again, I feel like I've adapted good and learned from the riders, and it's good. When I get a race with Hunter and those guys, I can see what they've learned and what their experience is. They've been in it for a while, so it was a quick change, but we're getting used to it good.
Are you the kind of guy, do you watch a lot of film? Like after the race, you guys sit down and go over a lot of it, speaking of that progression to learn, or is it just more stuff you pick up physically being on track next to the guy?
Yeah, I do watch a lot of footage, especially the guys that are winning. I mean, you watch them race, they have some unique stuff that you have to pick up on. And being my first year, you want to learn all those little tricks that these guys do to win races. So I do watch a lot of video before, after, and yeah, I study my riding and others a lot.
It's always fun to watch like the highlights or even like the stuff that Jeanette or some of our filmers get. You get to see some of the more slow-mo techniques, like some of the stuff Hunter does, some of the stuff Jay Coop does, some of the using braking bumps to triple in the corners, little technique stuff like that. Is there anything you've picked up on in the couple opening rounds that you're like personally when you do it, you're very stoked on? Like, man, I can't believe I'm doing this like on the bike.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, as a rider yourself, there's stuff you see as well racing that you don't, sometimes at these rough tracks, these nationals are like nothing other that you ever practice on, or, I mean, I haven't raced a track this gnarly in my amateur career, and you kind of pick up on some skills that you didn't know you have. And also when you're following, I mean, you're getting hole shots and you're running up front, you're seeing what these guys are doing, and these guys have some good bike skill that you can learn from, and it's pretty cool.
Ty, do we have two 450s now?
Just got two 450s, so yeah, actually racing a new one this weekend. Put 1 day on it back at home, so another stock 450.
So I'm sure social media is blowing up. This team should hire that team. Have you gotten any calls yet? Anybody helping you out a little more? Anything pop up yet? Or
Yeah, a lot of calls. Actually paying out at HBI racing this weekend, and yeah, grateful for that opportunity. They're going to be taking my bike to the round, so my parents don't have to drive a whole bunch of all-nighters and stuff. So yeah, shout out to them.
cool. Anything from Cowie or any help? No, not yet. Maybe we'll find some clutch plates in the future or something.
Yeah, we'll see.
Overall on the bike, have you really changed anything this week, or do you feel like, is there anything you really want to do or anything you feel like you need to improve being on a pretty stock 450, or are you happy and comfortable?
Yeah, obviously there's always room for improvement. We're actually on a new set of suspension this weekend. Shout out to AHM. But yeah, there's always room for improvement. The biggest thing is I'm just trying to get used to the 450. I've only been on it not long at all, only a couple days, so just getting more used to it, more comfy, and just still learning what the bike's going to do. I'm still not one with the bike, but I'm liking it a lot. The biggest thing, just loving the power.
Nice. I know last week on the TV broadcast, Stu was comparing your bike, your setup a lot to AC, talking about the factory bike, him looking stiff, your settings looking a little bit better, a little softer. Do you naturally run yourself a little softer? Is it maybe not having a big Supercross season under your belt? Like, I don't know. I guess like for maybe the person wondering at home, like why is it you're on more look like you're on more comfortable stuff than AC already? Like, do you have a reason?
I mean, I don't know. To me, is I'll take the factory bike any day of the week. I'll leave that. I mean, I don't see how privateers have an advantage, but no, I mean, obviously it just shows how good my suspension was. Shout out to AHM. But yeah, we're on a little softer setting. We actually went quite a bit stiffer, a little more hold up in the suspension. And we're actually maxed out on clickers last weekend because I only rode that set of suspension one time. So yeah, on new set this weekend, but looking forward to it.
Nice. Trying to think. Have you not even raced High Point as a pro?
Yeah, my rookie year came here, and it's a lot different here than it is on TV. The hills are like vertical, so yeah.
Yeah, that's always one of those deceiving ones. I came here for a Cowie intro back in like 16, being a West Coast boy. I've only seen this on TV. I remember walking out to the edge of the pits here and looking down. I'm like, oh, it's always going up or down.
I know. It's definitely a lot gnarlier in person. I mean, every corner is an off-camber. Nothing. Definitely keeps you on your toes.
One bright side, they've gotten a lot of moisture the last couple days. The track looks very saturated. This track with a lot of saturation, it gets it pretty ruddy, like Thunder Valley. Not as hard of a base, but I mean, no matter what, your technique, your body positioning, your strength, you were really good in the ruts last week. So looking forward to maybe being a little on the deeper side this weekend.
Oh yeah, gnarlier the better, always. I mean, rougher, deeper, anything. I love the adversity and just persevere.
So Levi, after last weekend, can we chalk up the better starts just to the fact that you were feeling it at Thunder Valley, or did you guys go to work on that all in the last week or two?
Yeah, no, I worked on it quite a bit, and Hangtown even, they were like a little bit better. I mean, they weren't great, but I switched to the blocks that I used to run as an amateur, so I'm running those now. And I think Colorado will help just confidence. A lot of it's confidence. Last year here, I had good starts with the top 5, but I crashed on the first lap, so in both motors. So, yeah, no, I don't know. Hopefully I can get off the gate good again and see where we end up here.
First couple rounds been decent, just kind of like going to the first couple motos of your start, get by a couple guys. Are you just kind of early moto missing sprint pace to kind of go with the front group? What do you feel like has been kind of this challenge or the struggle with you over the first couple rounds?
I don't really know what it was, especially in California. I was off the pace at the beginning, and then I would kind of come on at the end, but you're back at 8th, so it doesn't really matter. But then Colorado, I get a start, and those opening laps, I felt like I could actually, there was places where I may have been able to make something happen out of it, but it's hard to say. It's easy when you start up front to just kind of be able to send it around when you know there's only one guy you want to get around, rather than when you're in 12th and you know you have to pass 11 guys. So I don't know, it's definitely something I'm going to try to work on.
250 class has been pretty tough this summer, really, other than Hunter and your teammate Jacob a little bit. People have been struggling with consistency. So like last week, you get a good start at Thunder Valley. We saw what you could do last year at Thunder Valley, but it was pretty treacherous last week. Do you play it safe at all, just trying to get some motos logged here at the beginning and not be like, kind of like RJ's been in a couple of the guys that are just really, really up and down?
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that this last weekend, like, you know, the goal would be a bad moto as a 5th, you know, like start up front, and I would love to just try to stay up in there. I believe I can. But yeah, it's definitely, if I want to do what I want to do as far as like even keep those guys, you know, like I think being top 3 or something at the points would be a good goal for me this year. To even keep those guys close, like I'm gonna have to keep it there every weekend from here on out, I think.
Speaking of your starting blocks at Thunder Valley, I kind of joked they reminded me of a lot of the GP guys, like almost having their feet up on the pegs. I know a lot of guys do that at the grade, but you said you've actually ran them like that tall even as an amateur?
Yeah, I in 2020 at Mini O's, I ran them super tall like that, and it worked great. And then I went pro with Star, and we never really got back to them. We never rode great, so yeah, no, I've done it before.
Nice. Anything else you've been working on during the week?
Now I've got kind of making sure I'm healthy and ready to go on these weekends.
Phil, I think you're back a little bit earlier than we actually expected, right?
Yeah, a couple weeks. The goal was Redbud and maybe Southwick, Millville, you know, depending on my wrist. But I think been going pretty good, feeling okay, pretty strong. But it's always easier to say that I'm practicing than you get to racing. It's a completely different ballgame. But I feel comfortable enough to come ride and see where I'm at, do High Point, then I get a weekend off before Redbud. It kind of gives me a little bit of time to make some changes if I need to.
Is it just the injury has come that far along, or is it kind of the enticement of the little bit thinner field where, okay, I can get a round under my belt before the break? Or
Nah, it was field's whatever, but if they're all coming back, they'll all be back for Redbud Southwick by that time. So if I can come back a week early, kind of work out the kinks of my program, suspension the whole night, because you really don't know until you race the dang motorcycle. It's a new chassis. I haven't raced it yet, so I kind of need to see where I fit in and kind of work out the bugs. So I'm looking forward to that. Should I maybe wait for Redbud? I don't know. Hindsight's 2020, but I'm happy to be back at High Point and put in 2 solid 35-minute motos and see where we're at.
You've done pretty good here in the past anyway.
Yeah, I've done okay, you know, a bunch of top 10s and whatnot, but High Point's not my most favorite track. It's changed a lot over the years since my first year in 07 here, even since I was a kid, so it's cool to see the changes and come around and get new topsoil and sawdust, so they try and make it pretty good, so it used to not.
The YZ450s, I mean, all new this year in a sense. You've been on the Yamaha platform for a couple years. What about the new bike do you like? What compliments you about it? And is there anything you maybe had to chase a little bit more with the transition, or has it been all pretty positive?
It's been all pretty positive. It's been a little more twitchy than the old bike, but I do like the new bike power. It's a lot more mellow. For me, it's a lot more like the Husky when I rode it in 2018, and then I got back on the Yamaha's 2021 is a bit of a monster, but the Husky KTM power is very smooth and linear, and the new Yamaha is kind of like that. So I like the new power. I like the chassis. I like the cockpit, everything about it. So I like it in practice. I got to try it on race day first and see where we're at. So
The new bike, the stock gearing is ungodly spread. Like, you can ride the bike in second, barely third in a few places. Are you still running it pretty sped, or do you add anything to it?
What's stock? 49?
49, I
I
think.
think I had to go to a 51.
51. So you kept long wheelbase, because if you go 50, it kind of shorts up.
Yeah, so I went 1351, long wheelbase. But with that, because, yeah, they were saying like the gearing was so spaced. Second gear was too tall. Like, I kept having to go to first gear, which is unrealistic for a 450. For me, anyway. But nowadays, you can change it to where you can change the grouping sets, first and second, third and fourth, tighten it, or make it longer. So I've been working on that. So I'm with, basically almost running a stock-ish motor this weekend. So stock piston, crank, a little bit of a different head with twisted and a vortex, but don't need much power on a 450 nowadays. Just need something that's manageable. So we'll see where we're at.
Let's say if anything, Robin, get your teammate Garrett, Ty have all kind of proven like they don't need that much.
Nah, you don't. And you might need it for the first 10 minutes, but at 25 minutes, you're like, you could detune it somehow. It needs a way to do it. So I think my platform's okay. I'm just a little worried about suspension and stuff kind of speed, because you don't really know if it could be too soft or too stiff with everything. So yeah, kind of looking forward to that and see where we're at.
What would you be satisfied with tomorrow?
If I go 10-10, 10-9, somewhere around in there. I don't know, maybe I'll surprise myself, I'll do better. I mean, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in it. I always keep going back to, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 when I was battling with the top guys and stuff, but it's hard to do it when you get older. You start losing that fast twitch and speed, but we'll see. When the gate drops, the bullshit stops, and the mind kind of goes off, and actually ride more normal, but we'll see. Stay out of trouble, that's my main thing.